Give me 1 second. Okay. Well, hello, everybody. It's your girl, Gabrielle. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. If you are not familiar with this show, let me tell you what this show is about. So, this is a show where we like to talk that real talk about things that are happening in our personal lives, our business lives, things that are happening in education, mental health, employment, social services, anything else that is steamy. I am looking forward to this topic today because today we are going to be talking about something that is very common in the mental health world. And as someone that did her graduate studies in clinical mental health counseling, this is an an awesome opportunity to be able to be talking about something like this. And the topic for today is obsessive compulsive disorder. So I'm excited about this topic. I have a guest with me who is going to sit on the hot seat, who's going to talk about his experiences with obsessive compulsive disorder, or as we commonly know it as OCD. And I'm also going to share an outside resource about the symptoms and signs of obsessive compulsive disorder. So this is an awesome opportunity to be able to do something like this. And I'm just going to throw it out there. I see some people watching this in real time. So if you are watching this in real time, on video, of course, I encourage you to leave your questions in the chat. Please feel free to ask questions. I want to encourage public, public interaction, right? So feel free to leave your questions in the comment and, let's see if we can get it on the show. All right, so let's get right to it. So the guest who will be sitting on the hot seat, his name is Evander Beatty, and I can't wait to tell you about him. So let's do it. Who is Evander Beatty? Let me tell you who he is. So Evander Beatty was diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder at age 18. He has had a lifetime of fighting this illness. Through guts and determination, along with medicine and therapy, he has made a life for himself while still living with this illness. At one point, OCD had taken everything from him, but he has been taking it all back a little bit at a time and trying to be healthy despite this illness. He has a book called DangerLife, and that book is where he will tell his story. So let me just do a quick plug of his book, which we'll bring up later. But he does have a book where he talks about OCD. It is called DangerLife, A Dark Voyage Through OCD, and you could purchase it on Amazon right now. So I'm just going to do a quick plug there. All right. Without further ado, let me bring Evander Beatty to the stage. Hi, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for coming on the show. So let's get right to it. You have an interesting story about having obsessive compulsive disorder, and I would like you to share that with our audience. So I'm going to pass the baton to you, and I'm going to just let you get started.
Alrighty. Yeah, like I say, my name is Evander Beatty, and I suffer from OCD, have for quite a long time. I was diagnosed at age 18 when I was having a irrational fear about getting HIV or AIDS. I hadn't really been, I was not in danger of getting it. But I was convinced that I had it. And from there, I was diagnosed with OCD. And then, after that point, it took me in and out of school. It took a toll on a lot of my relationships, my family relationships, my friendships, and really turned me into kind of an isolated person for a period of my life. had a huge negative impact on me and my career and my life and everything that goes with it. So.
All right. Well, let's unpack that. So you mentioned that you were afraid of getting HIV and AIDS. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I had been with someone not really didn't really put me at huge risk, but I thought that what I had done with a female that I was with a few months prior, um, I had heard later on after we had broken up that uh, she had been with someone that I thought at the time I thought this person was dangerous and kind of crazy and didn't know what to think and thought that he could have had some illness, and then I could have caught it from her after her getting it from him. And I was tested twice, and obviously it came back negative, and it was just hard for me to let go of the fact that I was really afraid that I had it, and nothing could convince me that I was fine. And it took a lot of a lot of time and a lot of reassurance from my family and doctors to get me to a point where I could, let go of that.
I'm assuming you're referring to sexual activity.
Correct.
I mean, to be fair, that is a common fear and that is a reasonable fear. Um, so, what is it this time that made doctors concerned that you may have OCD?
Just the fact that I was having an irrational fear of something that really, by that point, shouldn't have been something I should be fearing. I think after you get your AIDS test, that should be enough to convince you. And for me, it was not. I was also having massive bouts of paranoia, thinking that people were trying to get to me and ruin my life, and a million different negative things in that regard. And I also had a real strong fear of I needed to keep everything around me clean, more clean than an average person would do. Lots of washing, lots of rules. And then it kind of just spun out of control from there.
Tell us more about that, the constant cleaning.
Yeah, so real quick, I'll mention this too, and this is a little bit graphic, so I apologize. But
Go for it.
when I was in, this was probably like 3 or 4 years after I got diagnosed. I was at my apartment. I had a couple of roommates, and one of my roommates was having a party, and the party was starting to die down, so not too many people were there. And there was one of the people from the party I just noticed that they had left the bathroom, and they had kind of run out of the apartment to get out of there very quickly. And so I go into the bathroom, and I find vomit all over the bathtub, and I find a mound of feces on the floor of the bathroom. And to me, I guess that was a traumatic experience. And from there, my fear of, bodily fluids and bodily waste just took hold, and I was never the same again after that. Did massive amounts of cleaning, washing things with wipes, and constantly, having wipes available, soap available, washing my hands multiple times a day. Basically everything that revolved around a bathroom or garbage or, anything that might be conceived as dirty, I had special rules for, and I had to handle it like it was nuclear waste.
I mean, again, to be fair, if you saw mountains of feces and in a bathroom, like that would disgust me too. That might traumatize me too. So I guess what I'm trying to understand is where's the point, where's the line where it's considered a disorder?
Yeah, so basically, for me, the OCD kind of revolves around that fear of things being dirty. Um, I lived for quite a long time with a lot of rules where if I ever left the house, my own personal house, I would consider the whole outside world dirty because I saw so many different people being dirty and doing things that, in my book would make you dirty. And so, any point where I left the house, I would have to come back, and right at the back door, I would have to change, take off my clothes, jump into the shower, take like a very in-depth, hardcore, like long shower, where I washed everything multiple times. And then I would get out of the shower and put it on clean clothes. And then I was able to feel comfortable in my own home. But for a while, it really prevented me from leaving my house at all, and definitely kept me out of the work world for a long period of time as well.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so we have our first public question. I'm so excited about this. I'm going to put it up on the screen right now. The question is, did your OCD ever involve intrusive or unwanted thoughts?
Absolutely. That's not something that probably ever goes away for someone with OCD. Uh, I was constantly having fears that I was getting feces on me. I was constantly having fears that, everybody hated me. And OCD talks to you constantly, and none of it's good. None of it's reassuring. None of it's nice. None of it's, nothing is positive. So absolutely, my OCD, involved intrusive and unwanted thoughts. I would say pretty much every thought that the OCD has ever given me has been unwanted.
Let's explore that a little bit. When you say unwanted, I mean, when you say unwanted, there's an assumption that there's wanted, right? There's wanted thoughts and then there's unwanted thoughts. So, can you talk more about the unwanted thoughts? What about these thoughts that was bothering you so much?
Yeah, basically just things that reinforced fears that I was having. Thoughts about people hating me and trying to like ruin my life, and thoughts about stuff getting dirty in the house, and thoughts about, basically stuff that made me uneasy and afraid. That's what I would kind of label as the unwanted thoughts. People usually, they like to feel comfortable and calm, and these thoughts totally made me do the opposite, and it really had a huge effect on my life.
Just got another comment here from Gates of Learning. Awesome. I would love to do an update episode. All right, we may just do that. All right. All right. So, I wanted to talk about we talked about in the preliminary interview about the different rooms of your house, and you have rules. What am I trying to say? You have rooms that you consider dirty and some that you consider clean. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so basically, if I'm able to have any type of a normal life where I can, have a career, work a job outside of the house, go to school, that kind of stuff, I kind of had to create two worlds within my house, because I could have either, you know, uh, tried to make everything clean, which would have been impossible, or I could have done what I did, and that is to have parts of my house that were clean, and I could be in those parts of the house when I was clean. And then when I needed to do things like study, because I have books and computers from the school, and I view those things as being dirty and uncleanable. But while I'm doing that kind of stuff, I consider myself to be dirty. Now, I still take showers. I just don't take the ridiculously long showers that, consume a big part of my day. So when I'm doing schoolwork, I just consider myself dirty, and I'm in the dirty bedroom or the dirty study room. Because one thing that it did to me, the OCD did to me, is when I was trying to stay clean 100% of the time, it exhausted me, and I had nothing left for like the real things that you're supposed to have energy for, like whether it be relationships, careers, exercise, any of that kind of stuff. And having parts of the house that are dirty enabled me to just be comfortable in those dirty spots without contaminating the rest of the house. And it's definitely weird. And I know for a lot of people that this would not be what they'd want. But for me, my OCD is not going away. I've had several years of therapy. I take medicine for it. And I've overcome a lot of it. Believe me, trust me, I've overcome a ton. If you'd known me, 16 years ago, you'd be shocked at how much I've, improved. But yeah, so basically that's kind of where the clean and dirty parts of the house came about, just so I could, be content and take care of the things that I need to take care of in order to support myself.
I definitely want to talk about how you improved, but I wanted to go back a little bit. You talked about um, that having OCD exhausted you. Can you tell us? Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I guess for me, when you are constantly obsessing and thinking about stuff that will never happen, you waste a lot of energy. Um, and that's what OCD makes you do. It makes you worry about the dumbest things, like things that you wouldn't even be able to come up with. Basically, like if I dropped something on the floor, the rest of my day would have been spent consumed by what happened to the thing that I dropped on the floor. How did it get dirty? Whose feet had been walking on the floor that I dropped it on? What have they been stepping in to track on to the floor where I dropped what I dropped? So it just exhausts you, because you really, on top of living a life, you also constantly are thinking about all these horrible worst case scenarios that encompass your fears, and it wears you out. And I also had problems with sleep apnea, and so that obviously doesn't help as well. And so there were periods of time, and are periods of time, where I literally, if I have a weekend off, I sleep the entire weekend, just because I'm exhausted. And it's way better now than it was back then. But back then, if I wasn't working, I was in bed, period, because I was just so exhausted. And the thing is you can't really have relationships when you're always in bed. You don't get to do anything fun. You don't get to really talk and see people. So it was definitely really, really hard back then.
So, just to point out, so because you were always exhausted, you always found yourself in bed. And of course, being in bed a lot, you weren't really social. You stayed in your house all the time. So the fact that you were constantly exhausted, it kept you at home. You were constantly tired, and you weren't really socializing much.
Correct. Before I was diagnosed, I was definitely we'll say a social butterfly. I had a million friends. I had, a lot of places to go. I had friends over to the house. Like, I'm talking like 50 to 60 people in my house, on a regular basis. And then I went from that to being able to not being able to have anybody other than my mom be in my house. And then, of course, at the time, my ex-wife, obviously I lived with her. But I could not have anyone else in the house, because I was afraid that they were going to contaminate it and make it dirty.
Hmm, interesting. So, so let's talk about relationships. So, how are things with your ex-wife? How did she handle the OCD?
Yeah, well, basically, the book that I wrote, DangerLife, is basically kind of tells that story about what happened with me and my ex-wife. Obviously, if she's my ex-wife, we got a divorce. She at first was very accommodating with my OCD rules and wanted to follow the rules and do everything. But over a period of time, it just became too much for her. And she started to get very angry. And I was already extremely angry because the OCD brings out a fury in me that I don't know that I can put into words. And so I was a mean husband. I would say mean things. We would fight a lot. We would, really go at it. And basically, there were, she got to a point where she just couldn't live with that anymore. And I don't blame her. And so she left, and that was around 2005 when we got our divorce. So it's been a while since then. I don't talk to her at all. I've let her move on with her life and be happy and do her own thing. And I'm just trying to, get going with my stuff too. So,
Yeah. So, how do you feel about getting in another relationship again?
it's scary. I definitely have dated women in the last 15 years or whatever. Some I've realized wouldn't work very quickly, and so they ended quickly. It's definitely a scary thing because even though I've overcome a lot, I still do have some rules, and a lot of those rules are just they're not going to go away. And if you don't have someone who can deal with them and be patient about it, then it's not going to probably work for me as far as the relationship goes.
Yeah. Oh, we got another public question. This is exciting, you guys. Keep it coming. All right. So this one says, in the first chapter of your book, you portray OCD as a monster who wants to control you. How have you learned to distinguish the untruth from reality?
Yeah, so one of the main things that I do when I'm having these bad thoughts and having conversations with that monster um, is I have to give myself in my own brain like positive self-talk, like, no, you've washed this table 10 times, it's not dirty anymore. The monster would tell you that it is dirty, but it's not. You've cleaned it, it's done. Move on to something else. I also have had um, several years of therapy where we worked on that kind of stuff, and just telling yourself good thoughts rather than scary ones. And I also get a lot of positive talk and feedback from my parents, my mother. A lot of times when things are really going out of control for me, she'll just be the voice of reason that kind of shuts up that monster. And if I listen to her rather than the monster, then I'm able to calm down and move in the right direction.
Your mom your mom was the voice of reason. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I mean, my mom has truly been a blessing to me. Um, she has always helped me um, work through these issues when something happens. Um, she helps me to calm down, and she reassures me basically that I don't have to worry about this. That if something gets dirty, it's okay. It's not the end of the world, and we'll fix it and we'll move on. And she's always been good at doing that. And like I say, without her, I probably would have gone crazy. Um, she's also helped me with cleaning a lot of stuff to help me, feel comfortable in my own home and in my parents' home, who live, in the same city as me. So she's been a real blessing, and she definitely deserves a lot of credit for what she's put up with and what she's done for me.
If I may ask, is your mom still with us?
She is still with us. Yep. She like I say, she lives a few miles away from where I live, and we see each other often and talk every day, and we definitely have our issues, but like I say, she's been a huge blessing for me.
Mm. So, of course, with OCD, it is individualized. It's not the same for every person. So, in our preliminary interview, I was talking to you about Howie Mandel. I think I don't know if I want to call him the poster child of OCD, but he is very famous for having OCD. So, I wanted to see if you could talk more about that in terms of your level of OCD. Is it on the same level as Howie Mandel?
Well, I'll be honest. I don't really know a whole lot about Howie Mandel. I know that he has OCD. I've heard him talk about it and stuff. Sounds like for him it was pretty serious. For me, all I can tell you is there was one time a few years ago when I sat down with my therapist and I said, "So, where do I rank with the people you've worked with OCD? Like, how bad is my OCD in comparison to other people's OCD?" And he looked at me and said, "Your OCD is one of the more severe cases that I've ever dealt with." Um, and, like I say, I don't know Howie Mandel, so I don't really know like exactly what it is he deals with, but mine is pretty severe. And the stuff that I've gone through is pretty amazing. So,
Whoa, whoa! Before we get to Howie Mandel, your own doctor said that you're one of the most severe cases. What was that like hearing that?
I wasn't surprised because I knew that I probably was. I don't want to say it like made me feel good, but it made me realize, okay, well, you're dealing with a serious issue here, and it's okay that you're not doing everything perfectly. It kind of helped me feel like this whole thing wasn't all my fault, and but at the same time, you realize, wow, I've got this horrible, severe OCD, and it's ruined my life on many different levels. This sucks, I was kind of sad that I had to live with that.
It ruined your life. How did it ruin your life?
Well, like I say, if you can't work, it takes away, your ability to have a career. Um, and if you can't leave the house, it takes away your ability to be friends with people. It took away the love of my life, my ex-wife. It's made my family upset with me quite often. Um, I was, when I say it ruined my life, that doesn't mean permanently, but for a period of time, it definitely ruined my life and made it so I really didn't have too many people that I could see, and I didn't have too many places I could go. I couldn't really do any jobs, and I really, like I say, I lost, the relationships that were important to me for over that time.
So it sounds like things that you love kept going away one after the other.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, oh, so thank you for sharing that. Just to go back to the Howie Mandel part, I think my understanding is he doesn't touch people. Like he doesn't do handshakes. I think he doesn't touch money. Um, he's a constant germaphobe. Um, I think that's my extent of Harry Mandel. So I brought him up because is that similar to what you're going through? Like, what are you? Will you shake hands? Will you touch money? Things. Are you a germaphobe? Things like that.
Yeah, well, it kind of goes back to the mentality that I wake up with every day. Am I going to be clean today or am I going to be dirty today? If I'm okay with being dirty today, I can do anything. I can shake hands, I can touch money. I do touch money in some of my jobs. Um, but there are times that I choose to be clean, and those happen less frequently now, but when I do have those days, I'm just like Howie Mandel. I can't touch people. I don't want to hug them. I don't want to shake their hands. I don't want to touch anything that they've touched. And that's why I had to create this other little world for myself where I could live comfortably being dirty, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All right, we got another public question. I love it, guys. Keep it coming. This one says, have you ever had anyone say to you, you're just having a pity party, get over it?
Definitely have had people, not maybe those exact words, but people thinking that I'm just being negative and I'm feeling sorry for myself. And I got news for you, man. OCD is not a party. It does make you feel terrible. And yeah, it brings out a lot of negativity. Um, but I definitely, the people, there are people who care about you who wouldn't say something like that, but there have been people that, basically don't understand OCD. And that's why I wrote the book. People just do not understand OCD. They don't understand how consuming it can be to your life and just the effects that it can have. I mean, I think a lot of people just think OCD is kind of this jokey little funny thing, like, oh, she has OCD. Like, she is compulsive and turns the light switch off, which is a thing that could happen to someone. But this is a very real thing that literally controls your thoughts. And for anyone to tell you to get over it, they are clearly not understanding how this works.
Hmm. I also find that people use the term OCD very, what's the word? Very loosely, very nonchalantly, and that if they like to, sort out their utensils like spoons, forks, knives, they'll say, "Oh, you have OCD," right? So I think when people say something like that, they're not really thinking about that there's actually like a threshold, like there's kind of like a safe, normalized, um, obsessive behavior or compulsive behavior. And then there's a point where it goes beyond the threshold and where it starts impeding social functioning. So, what are your thoughts on that when people just kind of throw it out and say, oh, you know, I'm, I have, I have OCD? Not, they're just saying it because like they do small compulsive behaviors and then they automatically think OCD.
Well, I think it just demonstrates how people just don't understand what it can do to a person. They think it's something quirky and funny. Like there was a TV show a while back where the guy had OCD, and it was a funny show. I think it was called Monk, and it was a funny show. He was a funny guy, but he had OCD, and it kind of makes light of it. And you wouldn't go around joking around about having cancer. You wouldn't joke around about having, a serious illness, physical illness. So really, like, to joke about a mental illness, it's more accepted because people just don't understand a lot about all of these illnesses that people have. So,
Yeah. All right, we got another public question. I love it, guys. Keep it coming. This one says, how is OCD similar or different than other mental disorders?
well, I'd say for some it's quite different, but for others it's very similar. I think for a lot of mental illnesses, they kind of revolve around anxiety, and OCD is definitely, that is the very essence of OCD, is to constantly be feeling ridiculous amounts of anxiety about stuff that probably won't even happen. Um, there's bipolar. From what I know about bipolar, it's probably a little different from that, and doesn't cause such huge mood swings. But I would say that OCD can reduce you to, like I say, to be a prisoner in your own home, just the same way that a lot of OCD or a lot of mental illnesses could. I'd say that the mental illnesses like schizophrenia, those are probably a little more scary and intense. Borderline personality disorder, that's probably a little more scary and intense. I'd much rather have OCD than one of those. But that doesn't mean, that, I mean, there's different levels to mental illness, and they're all pretty big things that could definitely ruin you if you let them.
Yeah. All right. So now let's get to the improvement part. So you mentioned it a few times. things have gotten better compared to like 15 years ago. What do you attribute to that?
Well, quite frankly, I attribute it to me creating those two worlds where one was clean and one was dirty. Um, for about 10 years or longer, me and my therapist worked on, doing things, basically trying to do the things I was afraid of doing, afraid that would get me dirty, and in hopes of getting over them. And for a lot of people, that does work. So don't get me wrong, that does work for people. And if you're able to do it, then more power to you. But me and my therapist, we kind of just got to a point together where we both decided, you know what, this isn't working, and this isn't fruitful, and this isn't, building anything positive. So let's stop doing these, trying to test yourself all the time about stuff being clean and dirty, and just create two worlds. One where you can do whatever you want and you have no anxiety about cleanliness or dirtiness, and one where you follow every single OCD rule you have, and just try to manage those two worlds, because I was never going to get to either of those points and be successful.
So the solution was to create one world where you can have all of your rules, and then a separate world where you can accept, maybe I don't know about accept, but you could tolerate being dirty.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, when I have my days where I consider myself dirty, um, I feel really dirty. Like, you might as well dump, waste and, blood and all that stuff. That's how I feel. Like, I've been covered in feces and covered in stuff like that. So it definitely stresses you out, even if you can tolerate it. And at some point, it's nice to just take a nice long shower and just be normal, like clean and feel good. But it definitely, when I'm in my dirty world, I can do so much more than I can do when I'm in my clean world, because the world isn't clean. And so you have to be able to, expose yourself to things that are not, um, what you would consider to be clean.
Yeah. Yeah. So now, we talked about again in your preliminary interview that you live in a house as opposed to an apartment, and I think you're able to have a clean room or a dirty room because you live in a house, right? So is it just you in the house, or is it other people?
It is at this point, it is just me. I when I was living in my own house when I was married, a different house, and when I got my divorce, I ended up moving back into the house that I grew up in, and my parents had bought another house and moved into that newer, bigger house. And so ever since my divorce, I've lived here at the house that I grew up in. And let's make no qualms about it, my dad allowed me to live here. And, there were periods of time where I did pay him rent and stuff, but he made this possible for me to be able to have a world that I can, have these two separate ways of living. And so a lot of credit has to go to him for, helping me to be able to, live comfortable, because you couldn't do what I'm doing if you had an apartment. It's just there, it's not big enough. And so I am fortunate in that regards, because some people don't have that option.
Yeah. You sound like you have a strong support system.
I do. I definitely do. Got my parents, and I've got my friends. I have a really good core group of friends who actually do understand the OCD and actually do care. Um, it when you have something like OCD, it really shows you who your real friends are, and I definitely have some good ones. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that helps a lot when you have a strong support system, that it helps you to manage the symptoms more.
Definitely. And one more thing I'd like to point out as far as my support system goes, I'm a part of a mental health, kind of an online support group. I'm one of the moderators for it, but it's called Broken People. And if you're dealing with, mental illness and you need some help, it's a good place to get, to see. We provide a lot of resources. We provide a lot of, conversations about mental illness. And, it's definitely, even though I'm a moderator, there are times where I really lean on it and it really does help me too. So that's another huge piece of my support system.
Awesome, awesome. What's tell us the name of the Facebook group?
It's Broken People. And I think you had the link, in the beginning of the show. And we do an online Facebook group where people can go and feel safe and talk about whatever they need to talk about. You can also post anonymously if you don't want people to know who you are. It's just a place where you're accepted no matter what. And that's important for people with mental illness.
Yeah, yeah. You don't, it's very important that, people don't feel alone, that when you have a sense of community and you have people that understand you, it really does help.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, I want to just get to this before we close. We are still an educational program, so we got to get some. I wanted to share this. I'm just going to share my screen. All right, you could see the screen. Okay. All right, so basically it's just a, a description of what is obsessive compulsive disorder. This is from the National Institute of Mental Health. You could see the screen. Okay, great. All right. So basically, I'll just share this. So the overview, it says, and this is, I'm quoting the website: obsessive compulsive disorder is a common, chronic, and long-lasting disorder in which a person has uncontrollable, reoccurring thoughts, which are called obsessions, and or behaviors, which are called compulsions, that he or she feels the urge to repeat over and over. Does that sound like what you have?
I would say it definitely does.
Great. All right, signs and symptoms. People with OCD may have symptoms of obsessions, compulsions, or both. These symptoms can interfere with all aspects of life, such as work, school, and personal relationships. How close does that come to your OCD?
I'd say it's right on the money.
So you have obsessions and compulsions, or
Well, the cleaning stuff, that is a compulsive. The excessive showers and that kind of thing, those are all I would consider to be compulsions. So, and then the things that all the worrying makes you do too.
so you're more, so it's compulsion. So you have obsessions as well, which are the thoughts.
Definitely.
All right. So we're breaking down obsessions. Obsessions are repeated thoughts, urges, or mental images that cause anxiety. Common symptoms include fear of germs or contamination, unwanted, forbidden, or taboo thoughts involving sex, religion, or harm, aggressive thoughts towards others or self, having things symmetrical or in a perfect order. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that all applies with me, and um, it's definitely a good way to sum it up.
Yeah. And compulsions, I'm quoting again, compulsions are repetitive behaviors that a person with OCD feels the urge to do in response to an obsessive thought. Common compulsions include excessive cleaning and or hand washing, ordering and arranging things in a particular precise way, repeatedly checking on things, such as repeatedly checking to see if the door is locked or that the oven is off, and compulsive counting. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I definitely am a checker. I'm always checking the locks. It used to get to a point where I'd have to like kind of like when I locked the door, I had to like say a word to myself so that I made sure I remembered locking it. Now it's a lot better. It's not such a big deal where I like am sitting in bed and I freak out and run downstairs to check the locks. But it definitely was part of my deal for sure.
Yeah. Let's continue. Not all rituals or habits are compulsions. Everyone double checks things sometimes, but a person with OCD generally can't control his or her thoughts, or behaviors, even when those thoughts or behaviors are recognized as excessive, spends at least 1 hour a day on these thoughts or behaviors, doesn't get pleasure when performing the behaviors or rituals, but may feel brief relief from the anxiety the thoughts cause, experiences significant problems in their daily life due to these thoughts or behaviors. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, that I can definitely relate to that for sure.
Yeah. Let's continue. Some individuals with OCD also have a tic disorder. Motor tics are sudden, brief, repetitive movements, such as eye blinking and other eye movements, facial grimacing, shoulder shrugging, and head or shoulder jerking. Common vocal tics include repetitive throat clearing, sniffing, or grunting sounds. Do you think that applies to you?
I would say that's one that I was lucky enough to avoid and not have happen. But I have known people who deal with a lot of that kind of thing. So yeah, it's definitely real. But for me, that aspect of it wasn't really a part of it for me.
Yeah. Okay. Symptoms, well, I'm not going to go through this whole page, but symptoms may come and go, ease over time, or worsen. People with OCD may try to help themselves by avoiding situations that trigger their obsessions, or they may use alcohol or drugs to calm themselves. Although most adults with OCD recognize that what they are doing doesn't make sense, some adults and most children may not realize that their behavior is out of the ordinary. Parents or teachers typically recognize OCD symptoms in children. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's very crucial to if you have children, it's very crucial to monitor this. And if you're seeing any of this kind of stuff in one of your kids, you definitely want to address it and try to take care of it before it gets out of control.
Yeah. And of course, if you think you have OCD, talk to your doctor about your symptoms. If left untreated, OCD can interfere in all aspects of your life. What do you think of that?
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right. All right. Okay. All right. So I just want to reiterate a certain point that was on that website that where is it? What was the part? Okay, that I'm looking for it. Okay, that the symptoms of OCD can interfere with all aspects of life, such as work, school, and personal relationships, and that everyone double checks things. There's a time to be clean, is a time to be dirty, but it becomes a disorder when it starts interfering in those parts of life, when it starts interfering with your work, interfering with your school, interfering with personal relationships. That's when it becomes a disorder. So that's what I was talking about when I say there's a threshold, right? There's kind of there's a safe zone, and then there's a red zone, right? And so when it gets into the red zone, that's when it becomes a disorder. What what are your thoughts on what I just said?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that is definitely correct. Um, if I had stayed clean for the rest of my life every day and all day, every day, I would not be able to do anything. Since I've decided that I want to do stuff and have jobs, which I've had many jobs, and I want to be around people, have conversations, you know, shake hands, hugs, whatever, have relationships. Um, I mean, you need that kind of stuff, and living in that dirty world as much as I can kind of allows me to be a normal person again.
Yeah, and I think one of one of the ways to reduce symptoms is to accept that there is a time to be dirty. Like, like you can't be 100% clean all the time. There are germs in the world. There is dirt in the world, and I'm not saying kind of just live a dirty life all the time, but there's a time to be clean and there's a time to be dirty. And I think one of the things about, I guess, for lack of a better term, overcoming OCD is accepting dirtiness to an extent, and not being clean all the time.
Yep, I would agree with that as well.
Yeah. All right, so let's start to wind things down. Do you have any final words of wisdom that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, yeah, basically there's two things I'd like to say. One is there's a heck of a lot more people than you might think who have OCD. And if you feel like you have it and you find out that you do have it, you're definitely not alone. There's a lot of people like us, a lot of people like me. They just don't talk about it. So there are places to go and learn about it and get more information and deal with people who have the same, type of situation that you do. The other piece of it is, if I've had a lot of my friends, their children, they were, get diagnosed with OCD, and I just really urge those families to fight it hard at the beginning and try to get their kids better as soon as they can before it gets out of control and they turn into someone like me. Because the amount of hardship that this disease, this illness has created for me, I could never put it into words, and you can't let your kids go through that kind of stuff. So I would just urge you to really try to address it if you get this information, at a young age. Go to the doctors, look into taking medicine, handle therapy with, an ongoing therapist. So that's basically my 2 words of wisdom for today.
And thank you for your words of wisdom. There's so much that we didn't even cover, but we're just going to have to do a part 2 on this. So thank you again for coming on the show, and thank you to the public for your questions, and thank you for this amazing conversation. All right, so it is promo time. All right, so Evander Beatty, you can find him. He has a blog, www.broken-people.org. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to him via email. It is evbeatty1 at gmail.com. That information is scrolling below at the bottom of your screen if you just so happen to be watching this on video. Before our audio people, do not fret. This information is in the description, but I will repeat it again. He has a blog, www.broken-people.org, and you can reach out to him via email, evbeatty, the number 1, at gmail.com. And you also, is that the Facebook group? That's your blog.
Yeah, so the broken people part of it, that's not 100% my blog. I just, my blog is a part of it. Like, there's a lot of people that write articles for it. But this is an organization created by Joseph Reed, and that's basically the website that encompasses all the things that broken people do, education, support type stuff. It also, that's what our Facebook support group is from. So just wanted to clarify, the whole broken people site is not mine. It's not just my blog, but my blog is a small piece of it. And there are a lot of other people that are involved, and there's a lot you can learn from the website for sure.
Okay. I mean, but you do contribute to it, so you definitely,
Yes.
So that's fine. All right. So definitely want to share that information. And let's make sure we get your book. You have a book called DangerLife, A Dark Voyage Thru OCD. You can purchase it on Amazon right now. I mean, you pretty much talked about it, but can you tell us, tell us about your book?
Well, it's pretty heavy duty. I think people who read it, they don't see it coming, because I don't pull any punches. I tell things very real and in a unique way. So I think that you can't read that book and not know more about OCD after reading it. And the best way, if you want the link, you can either email me and I can send it to you, or just Google Evander Beatty and Google DangerLife, and the book should come up on Amazon, and you can order it. It's unlike any other book I've ever seen. So I urge you to give it a whirl.
And I urge you to do that as well. So, of course, we have that link to the book. That link it's a lot of letters, so you don't have to take it from the bottom of your screen, but it will be in the description. So we have that link provided to you already. Just check out the description. That link is already there. And of course, if you can always reach out to him via email to get the link to the book. But it is on Amazon right now. Go get that book, you guys. All right, Evander, thank you so much for joining me today. This was awesome.
Well, thanks for having me. I enjoyed having a chance to talk about this and get the word out on it. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you again. This was amazing. All right, you guys. So now I'm going to do my closing here. All right, you guys. So now we have reached the conclusion of our episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please check out our other episodes and don't forget to follow and subscribe. So, whatever platform that you are taking this in right now, whether that is on YouTube or Facebook, or if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple or any of the other podcast platforms, please check out our other episodes and don't forget to follow and subscribe. And while you're at it, please let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a comment in the comment section below or in the comment thread. I will definitely appreciate your feedback. And as a reminder, this whole podcast is a production of A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you would like to learn more about us, if you would like to learn about our company, what we're about, if you are looking for a tutor for yourself or for your child, please reach out to us. Our website is www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. You can also find us all over that social media. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, WhatsApp. I feel like I'm missing one, but that information, we are all over the place. So please check us out on social media. I will share our website again. It is www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com. I also encourage you to sign up for our email list and our texting list if you would like to receive more information about A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. You want exclusive offers, promotions, discounts, all that is a step ahead. Sign up for our email list, sign up for that texting list. That information, of course, is scrolling below at the bottom of your screen if you are watching this on video. But if you are listening to this on audio, again, don't fret. That information is in the description. And I'm just going to share this one last thing. When you reach out to us and for a tutor and you say that you heard about us from Hot Topics, we will give you a 15% discount off of 6 hours of tutoring. So definitely take advantage of that discount, you guys. Okay, I know we are a little bit over time, but that is okay. So I'm just going to share this final message before we officially close out.
Hey there, have you heard of us? We're a small team of tutors here at A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. We believe that education and information should be accessible to everyone, regardless of income, race, or creed. We're dedicated to making this happen, but we need your help. Please consider making a donation to our company. No amount is too small. Your donation will allow us tutors to remain employed. Offer free and low-cost services, put on productions like this podcast, and reach out to families nationwide. With your help, we can tackle the academic challenges of our students and the emotional, mental, and behavioral changes that result from these challenges. As a bonus, we can improve our communities in the process. Support us today. Send your donation by Cash App to $ASATS 2013, by PayPal or Venmo to @ASATS 2013, or by Zelle to success at astepAheadTutoringServices.com. For our Facebook Live viewers, you can also send us a star. Your support means a lot to us. Please note, we're a for-profit company. We're not a charity. Your donation may not be tax deductible. Please consult a tax professional.
All right, and that is it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you or hearing you at the next episode. My name is Gabrielle Crichlow. Thank you again. Now, I am signing off. Bye.